So this isn't my most glamorous video because it's gonna get a little bit messy and dirty, but it will be understandable when we are dealing with glass and we wanna make sure that it's nice and clean. So I intentionally grabbed some glass that's been sitting in my garage. I've got a whole bunch that I'm working through right now, but you can see that it's not clean. So we wanna make sure this is super clean. So the first thing I'm gonna do is start off by grabbing some gloves. This is just to ensure I don't further fingerprint it, so it's not a complete pointless mess that I'm cleaning them. So I'm using some glass cleaner, and then I'm just going to clean this up really well. Do make sure that the edges are really clean. A lot of times when we are, I don't really have to go over this, but it's just the truth that a lot of times when we are cleaning things, we can miss the edges. So what ends up happening is we give a good surface clean and then the edges are still kind of smudgy and dark and gross, and we're looking for something super, super clean. So also make sure the surface that you're working on is also clean so you don't pick up a bunch of extras. These paper towels are not my favorite. They're very thin and they shred. But anyway, you get it. Okay, so that's looking pretty clean to me. So I'm gonna do 2 of these. I'm going to do place cards for bride and groom for the full wedding suite. And the materials that I'm using are glass. And then I have this little palette. It's a real cheap palette. You can get these anywhere. But I used it to put my ink in. This is Dr. P.H. Martin's Pen White, which is a super concentrated white. To use these droppers. You take it out until it hovers above, squeeze the top of it, and then dip back in, release slowly, and that fills up that area so that you can then squeeze it into your tray. So I've already done that, and then I'm just using this pointed pen. This is by Ink Me This, and the link to her amazing pointed pen handles is in the description, but she has some gorgeous pieces, so I'm obsessed with this one. So I'm just going to write directly on this piece of glass. So I'm going to dip my pen in. This has been sitting for a minute, so if it doesn't work right away, that's probably why. It's a good idea to run these underwater if they've been sitting. Okay, so I'm going to go for, and to center things, I usually think I know how large I typically write, and I have 5 letters for bride and for groom, so I just kind of imagine that, so I know how big I want to do this. But that'll also depend, do you want it just to be a word that's just centered, or do you want any flourishes and things? Do you want to go lowercase? Do you want to go uppercase? Things like that. But I am just going to start off not quite. Here I am making decisions. I think I will run off the glass. So you can even do it where you're running off the glass, which will be... Suddenly I get very quiet. But yeah, so you are going to just work directly on the glass, and every time that the ink disappears or starts to get streaky, just re-dip. But this is the same as writing on paper. It's just glass. It's a little bit slipperier, more slippery. There we go. But it actually makes it a little bit easier, I think. Okay, so the nice thing about glass is that these can be removed if we don't love them before it dries, because I do not like how that was centered. I'm showing you guys this and not cutting it out in the video on purpose because these things need to be seen. You're not alone. Nothing is perfect on the first shot. And if it is, it's because somebody settled or they got real lucky. Okay. One more time. So now I know how big I'm going to write that, so I probably will scoot it on over a little further. I used to have the problem where I would start a word way too far over thinking it would fit right here, and then I don't have enough room, so I feel like I'm overcompensating a lot these days. Okay. So I'm coming in. Let's go about See, that's looking like it's centering much better now. Okay, so that's what that looks like. That's what I want it to look like. This is still a little bit wet on the back from the cleaner, but once that dries, you can see the streak-free bride, which looks really, really pretty, and it will against some really pretty like silk textiles and whatnot. So I'm gonna do groom now the same way. And if you guys don't already know techniques for how to use modify pressure with pointed pen and whatnot, that's something that I have a lot of resources for, usually with brush pens, but pointed pen is the same technique with pressure and upstrokes and downstrokes and forming letters and all of the jazz. So lots of resources out there, but I just mostly want to show you this really easy way to apply to glass. Move into groom, something that's really fun that you can do that's kind of like a fun little secret that people may or may not catch on to, but probably not because they're place cards, but it just makes the bride and groom a little bit more attached, is to connect this strand right here so that it connects over to groom. So just maybe slightly mark where that starts if you can get an ink flow. There we go. It's going to start right there. So I'm going to connect that to the G, which will be fun. Okay, and then I have bride and groom. They will look beautiful as place cards, but then you secretly know that they connect right here to create the marriage. Isn't that fun? I know it. All right, you guys, if you like this video and you want to see some more tutorials or ideas, inspiration and whatnot, please be sure to thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you next time.